You've probably noticed it, right? The AI boom feels like a modern-day gold rush. Trillion-dollar companies are popping up, and it feels like the future is arriving way faster than any of us expected. But with any gold rush, you gotta ask the big question. Are we building a revolutionary new world here, or is this whole thing just a massive house of cards?
To really get a handle on the scale of what's happening, let's just start with one number, $200 billion. That's how much Amazon, just Amazon, is planning to spend in 2026. And almost all of it is going to AI and cloud infrastructure. I mean, that is just a staggering, almost unbelievable bet on what's coming next.
And this isn't just some wild gamble. Amazon CEO, Andy Jassy, he's basically saying this isn't a crazy chase for revenue. He sees it as a fundamental, once-in-a-generation opportunity to completely reshape the company, just like they did with their cloud business, AWS, years ago. That's the kind of conviction we're seeing at the very top.
But that conviction, it's not just happening in the C-suite. This AI gold rush is really a story of two totally different things happening at once. On one side, you've got these tech giants making these massive top-down bets. And on the other, you have this chaotic, messy, and incredibly fast-moving grassroots movement that's building everything from the bottom up.
And believe me, Amazon is not alone in this. This is an industry-wide arms race. Look at this. Alphabet is planning to spend up to $185 billion. Meta is right there with up to $135 billion. And Microsoft, get this, they spent over $37 billion in just one quarter. These aren't just investments. These companies are all declaring that AI is the new center of their universe.
So, okay, that's the big corporate top-down boom. But at the exact same time, there's this completely different kind of explosion happening in the open source world. And honestly, it's way messier, way more creative, and maybe it tells us more about what's really going on here.
Just take the story of OpenClaw. It's an open source AI agent that started as Clawbot and just went viral overnight. Then it got a threat from the AI giant Anthropic over the name, so it rebranded to Moltbot, and then almost immediately it changed again to OpenClaw. It's like this whiplash-inducing identity crisis that just perfectly captures how wild and untamed this grassroots movement is.
And the hype around projects like this was off the charts. People were calling it the Netscape moment for AI. But the reality on the ground, well, it was a different story. Users and researchers were quick to call it a security disaster, with one person hijacking an agent in literally milliseconds. On top of that, it was just burning through money with heavy token consumption, which basically means it was incredibly expensive to run. Hype meet harsh reality.
So we have these two booms, right? The corporate one and the chaotic one. And both are just burning through cash like there's no tomorrow. Which brings us to the absolute heart of the matter. Where is all the money to pay for this revolution actually coming from? Let's circle back to Amazon for a second. In 2025, after all their spending, they had about $11 billion in free cash flow. So, how in the world does a company with $11 billion in spare cash suddenly plan to spend $200 billion in a single year? The math, it just doesn't seem to add up, does it?
Well, what's happening is this huge shift across the entire tech industry. For years, these big tech firms were basically giant cash machines. They funded all their growth with the money they were making. But the AI boom completely changed the game. Now, their capital expenditures, all the money they're spending on stuff like data centers, is way more than the free cash they have. So they have to get the money from somewhere else.
And a huge chunk of that somewhere else is coming from something called private credit. You can think of it like specialized loans that don't come from traditional banks. It's faster, it's more flexible, and it's kind of perfect for these huge, risky AI infrastructure projects. And the amount of private credit lending for AI stuff, it has just exploded from basically zero to over $200 billion. But even that is just the tip of the iceberg, the part of the financing you can actually see. All the spending we see on the books, the official debt deals, that's only a fraction of what these companies are really on the hook for. There are enormous hidden liabilities.
And here's the bombshell number, $662 billion. According to a Moody's report, that's how much the top 5 tech giants owe in future data center leases that don't even show up on their balance sheets. Since the leases haven't officially started, they're not technically counted as debt yet. It's this massive, hidden financial overhang just sitting there.
So this mix of insane spending, new kinds of debt, and all these hidden liabilities has some very smart people very worried. And that brings us to the guy who famously predicted the 2008 financial crisis, Michael Burry, and his really stark warning about the foundation of this whole AI boom.
Michael Burry is not pulling any punches here. He flat out believes the tech giants that are driving this AI rally are, in his own words, cooking their books. He's claiming that the amazing profits we're all seeing are entirely real, that they're actually the result of an accounting illusion.
Okay, so here's his argument broken down really simply. Step 1, a powerful AI server becomes obsolete pretty fast, right? Let's say it has a useful life of about 3 years in the real world. Step 2, but instead of logging that 3-year lifespan, a company says on its books that the server will actually be useful for 5 or even 6 years. Step 3, this little change dramatically cuts the amount of money they have to write off each year as an expense. And the result? Their profits on paper look way, way higher than they really are.
And to Burry, this isn't just some clever accounting trick. He sees it as a fundamental deception. He calls this practice one of the great frauds of modern finance. I mean, those are incredibly powerful words coming from a guy with his track record.
And we are not talking about a small difference here. Burry estimates that by 2028, this accounting maneuver could be inflating Oracle's profits by as much as 27% and Meta's by 21%. If he's right, it means a huge chunk of the AI profit boom is a mirage, which could have some really serious consequences for the entire stock market. Now that is a terrifying thought for sure, but there is a very powerful counter-argument starting to build, and it's basically that this time is different, that the normal rules of financial bubbles and, gravity might not actually apply to the AI revolution.
And that leads us to the trillion-dollar question that everybody is asking. We've got the crazy spending, we've got the debt, and we have a stark warning of fraud. So, will the AI bubble pop?
There are some pretty compelling reasons to think it won't. First, governments are treating AI as critical national infrastructure now. It's like a Manhattan Project in the race against China. Second, the demand for computing power is so insane that even older hardware isn't getting thrown out, it's being repurposed, which actually does extend its useful life. And you have these visionary investors and governments who seem ready to pump in basically limitless money to make sure it all succeeds. They might simply refuse to let it fail.
And we're already seeing this happen. Remember Peter Steinberger, the guy who created that chaotic OpenClaw project? He was just hired by OpenAI. So the establishment isn't fighting the grassroots movement. It's just absorbing it. As Sam Altman said, these personal agents are going to become a core part of what they do. The system is just reinforcing itself and getting stronger.
So that leaves us with the ultimate question. On one hand, you have this absolutely unprecedented investment and technological promise. But on the other, you have some very questionable accounting and a mountain of hidden debt. Is this AI boom a rocket ship blasting us all into a new era? Or is it just flying high on borrowed money and borrowed time?